I deeply, deeply believe that people were wrong. They just didn't appreciate what we built. But I was definitely the best bathroom cleaner the world's ever seen. This idea called industrial revolution, we are producing something for the very first time that has never been produced before. And we're producing it in extremely high volume. And the production of this thing requires a new instrument that never existed before. It's a GPU.
经济之下无秘密，欢迎来到本期的查理聊财经。今天我们要一起来看一段非常精彩的对话。那么这段对话呢，发生在 Stripe 的 CEO Patrick Collison 和 NVIDIA 的 CEO Jensen Huang 的之间的一个深度的交流。这段采访发生在2024年，而就在1年后，2025年7月9日 ，NVIDIA 的市值呢首次突破了4万亿美金，成为了历史上第一家市值突破4万亿美金的公司。这不光是 NVIDIA， 也是美股市场上非常重要的一个里程碑的事件。首先，我们来介绍一下这两家公司。Stripe 是一家来自于硅谷的金融科技公司，由 Patrick Collison 和他的弟弟 John 在2010年创立。核心业务其实就是帮助全球的商家轻松的处理收款以及支付等线上的业务。那么 Patrick 本人是爱尔兰人，他思维敏捷，执行力非常强，现在在硅谷也是非常受好评的年轻一代创业家的领军人物。另外一位就是我们再熟悉不过的 NVIDIA 的创始人黄仁勋了。那么 NVIDIA 呢，创办于1993年，最初是做显卡起家，如今是 GPU 核心的推动者，也是领军人物。那么它的 GPU 几乎是所有的 AI 训练以及高性能计算的标配。黄仁勋本人出生于台湾，少年时期移民美国。这段采访时长高达1个小时30分钟，那么我精简了其中重要的部分与大家分享。那么我们一起来看一下这段采访包括了哪几部分的内容呢？第一个部分，黄仁勋指出了最好的工作是什么呢？最好的工作可能不会带给你很多的幸福感以及快乐，很多时候你需要 suffer from your work。 第二个部分，黄仁勋介绍了自己的成长经历以及他的 job experience。 第三部分就开始聊到了英伟达的部分，其中提到了英伟达的高层是如何管理的，以及英伟达如何避免高层之间有不同的信息差以及认知差。黄仁勋说，他确保公司的60位高层管理人员没有任何的信息差，并且都可以直接向他汇报。同时他提到了我们要 learn from others' mistake， 不要每件事情都要通过自己犯错误去学习，而要做案例分析，看看他人犯了什么错误，自己的公司要如何的避免。最后一个部分，黄仁勋详细讲解了 CUDA 系统对于 NVIDIA 的重要性，以及未来 GPU 的市场还有多少增长潜力。那么我们一起来开始这段视频吧。
So the thing is, when you want to build something great, it's not easy to do. And when you're doing something that's not easy to do, you're not always enjoying it. I don't love every day of my job. I don't think every day brings me joy, nor does joy have to be the definition of a good day. And every day I'm not happy. Every year I'm not happy about the company. But I love the company every single second. And so I think that what people misunderstand is somehow the best jobs are the one that brings you happiness all the time. I don't think that that's right. You have to suffer. You have to struggle. You have to endeavor. You have to do those hard things and work through it in order to really appreciate what you've done. And there are no such things that are great that was easy to do. And so by definition, I would say, therefore, I wish upon you greatness, which by my way of saying it, I wish upon you plenty of pain and suffering.
刚刚在第一部分，黄仁勋提到了工作经常是会让你 suffering， 经常让你受苦难的一个东西。他觉得很多年轻人认为工作是应该给我们带来快乐和幸福的，但很多的时候他也指出了他十分热爱自己的工作以及公司，但是经常工作需要我们去 suffering， 并且需要长期去完善去做的一件事情。我觉得这件事情是值得所有我们频道的听众都去仔细并且反复研究的一件事情。
I didn't realize I had to lay down for this. I'm about to tell you things I've never told anyone, not even my family. I was an immigrant, and when I came in 1973, I was 9. My older brother was almost 11, and this was a foreign country, and there was nothing easy about that. And we also grew up in really terrific parents, but we weren't wealthy, and so they worked hard. They work hard today, and so they passed along a lot of life lessons about working hard. Now I had all kinds of jobs, and we went to a school that included a lot of chores.
Is it in Kentucky?
Yeah, Kentucky, Oneida Baptist Institute, and I don't think it's the same as MIT. That I is not the same. It's the same word, but it's different. It's a different type of institute. But my institute required you to go to school, and it was a dormitory, and so there were a lot of chores. I was the youngest kid in school, and so all of the other kids got the hard work. They had to work in the tobacco farm. And I got the easy job. I was 9 years old, and so after they left, I had to clean all the bathrooms. I never felt that I got the easy job, because what they left behind was, you can't unsee that kind of stuff. But that was my job, and so I did it delightfully, and then I had plenty of other jobs, and Denny's was one of them, and I started out as a dishwasher and became a busboy and became a waiter, and I loved every one of them. I loved every one of them. Somehow, I've always found, I want to say joy, but that's not quite right. I just everything that I was doing, I wanted to do the best I could, and maybe that was kind of ingrained from the very beginning.
这里Jason Huang 他指出了一个事情，可能很多工作他并不喜欢做，但是他自己的骨子里带的一种品质，我做什么事情我就要把它做好。我觉得这件事情跟东亚的教育有关，不管是教育方面、学校层面、家长层面等等等等。东亚的教育会设定一个标准，这个标准是有一个严格的最优解的，他们试图教育孩子都要理解并且达到这个最优解。这一点我不知道是好是坏，但是我觉得至少目前在黄仁勋的这个经历当中，对他来讲这个品质一定是好的。
How large is
your leadership team?
NVIDIA's leadership team is 60 people.
这段我觉得大家可以
And they all report to you?
They all report to me.
60 direct reports.
60 direct reports, yeah.
英伟达的管理
Which is not
有大约
conventionally considered a best practice. I agree that the best practice kind of...
I'm certain that's the best practice. It's not conventional, but I am certain it's the best practice. First of all, the reason is because the layer of hierarchy in your company really matters. Information really matters. I believe that your contribution to the work should not be based on the privileged access to information. I don't do one-on-ones, and my staff is quite large, and almost everything that I say to everybody all at the same time. And the reason for that is because I don't really believe there's any information that I operate on that somehow only one or two people should hear about. These are the challenges of the company, or this is the problem I'm trying to solve, or this is the direction we're trying to go into. These are the new endeavors. This isn't working, that's working well. And so all of this type of information, everybody should be able to hear. I love that everybody's working off of the same song sheet. I love that there is no privileged access to information. I love that we're able to all contribute to solving a problem.
黄仁勋刚刚这段讲话，我觉得是非常有管理者智慧和哲学的。他希望大家在面临公司的问题的时候，可以共同解决，而并不是某一个人或者是某一个层级的领导，他有一些别人看不到的一个信息差。他觉得所有的管理层都应该拥有相同的渠道，去获取相同的 information.
It's all based on issues, whatever issues we have. Everybody's there working on it at the same time. Everybody else heard the reasoning of the problem. Everybody heard the reasoning of the solution. Everybody heard everything. And so that empowers people. I believe that when you give everybody equal access to information, it empowers people. And so that's number one, empowering. Number two, if the CEO's direct staff is 60 people, the number of layers you've removed in a company is probably something like 7, depending on how it is.
Is it 60 at every layer, or only 60, as in like, if I'm a director, if I'm one of the fortunate 60, do I also have 60 direct reports?
No.
Or, okay, so
I don't think that that's scalable downward. And the reason for that is because you need more and more supervision depending on.
他觉得他下层的这60个员工是可以以这种方式直接向他汇报工作，然后进行共同管理的。但是他觉得这种形式是不能继续往更下一层级来推进的， 因为越往下监管的难度其实是越大的。
At the E-staff level, if you're so unfortunate to be serving on NVIDIA's E-staff, it's very unlikely you need a lot of managerial. Feedback is learning. For what reason are you the only person who should learn this? Now, you created the conditions because of mistake that you made or silliness that you brought upon yourself. We should all learn from that opportunity. So you created the conditions, but we should all learn from it. Does it make sense? So for me to explain to you why that doesn't make sense or how I differ from it, not as half the time I'm not right, but for me to reason through it in front of everybody helps everybody learn how to reason through it. And so the issue, the problem I have with one-on-ones and taking feedback aside is you deprive a whole bunch of people that same learning. Learning from mistakes, other people's mistakes, is the best way to learn. Why learn from your own mistakes? Why learn from your own embarrassment? You gotta learn from other people's embarrassment. That's why we have case studies, and isn't that right? We're trying to read from other people's disasters, other people's tragedies. Nothing makes us happier than that.
Have you succeeded in getting other leaders at NVIDIA to adopt this practice, or is that difficult?
I give people the opportunity to decide for themselves, but I really discourage one-on-ones. I really discourage one-on-ones. Nothing is worse than the idea that somebody says, "Oh, Jensen wants us to do this." Why does that have to be said to anybody? Everybody should know. And so, or somebody said, that E-staff said that. Nothing drives me nuttier than that.
You once told me that you really didn't like firing people and very seldom did it. Can you elaborate on that?
Well, I'd rather improve you than give up on you. When you fire somebody, you're kind of saying, well, it wasn't your fault, or I made the wrong choice, or there are very few jobs. Look, I used to clean bathrooms, and now I'm the CEO of a company. I'm pretty certain you can learn this. And there are a lot of things in life that I believe you can learn, and you just have to be given the opportunity to learn it. I had the benefit of watching a lot of smart people do a lot of things. I'm surrounded by 60 people. They're doing smart things all the time, and they probably don't realize it, but I'm learning constantly from every single one of them. And so I don't like giving up on people because I think they could improve. But people know that I'd rather torture them into greatness because I believe in you. And I think coaches that really believe in their team torture them into greatness. And oftentimes they're so close. Don't give up. They're so close. Greatness it comes all of a sudden one day. It's like, I got it. Do you know what I'm saying? That feeling that you didn't get it yesterday, and all of a sudden one day something clicked. I got it. Could you imagine you gave up just that moment right before you got it? So I don't want you to give up on that. So let's just keep torturing you.
黄仁勋在这里提到了，他宁愿所谓继续折磨自己的员工，也不愿意随意解雇一个人，因为他相信很多事情你会一点点进步，并且有一天你终会领悟到其中的奥秘。
How's your work-life balance?
这看来是一个非常严峻的问题。我相信每个创业者应该都很难拥有一个很好的 work and life balance。我几年前在创业的时候也是这样。在创业的将近5年的时间当中，也是大部分的精力都投入到了自己的创业公司当中。
Well, it depends on who you ask. I think my work-life balance is really great. It's really great, as much as I can. And I feel like he's judging me. I'm older than you. I have more wisdom than you. So
These are all the highlights from our conversations that I think more people should get to hear.
Well, I work from the moment I wake up to the moment I go to bed. And I work 7 days a week. When I'm not working, I'm thinking about working. And when I'm working, I'm working. And I sit through movies, but I don't remember them because I'm thinking about work. And so that's because. But my work is not, as you know, it's not working as in there's this problem and you're trying to solve this problem. You're thinking about what the company can be, and are there things that we could do even better, or sometimes it's just trying to solve a problem, but sometimes you're imagining the future, and boy, if we did this and that, and it's working. You're fantasizing, you're dreaming.
What does a day in Jensen's life look like?
Well, I used to wake up at 5. These days I wake up at 6 because of my dogs. And the reason why 6 is somehow we decided that 6 o'clock is when they should wake up. And I don't know what it is. I don't mind waking anybody up, but I feel guilty when I wake the puppies up. And it actually burdens me. And so I don't want to move. It might, they pick up on any vibration in the house, and it wakes them up, and so we kind of stay in bed, and I just read in bed until 6 o'clock, and it's time.
But you're thinking about GPUs.
Oh yeah, sure. I'm obsessed about GPUs. I mean, what can you do? I'm constantly
And then the day is all, I guess, group meetings, because it can't be one-on-one meetings.
Yeah, I get my work done before I go to work, and then when I get to work,
How many meetings in a typical day?
pretty much all day long. And so I select the meetings that are really important to me.
睡觉前
I try not to have regular
除了睡觉
meetings,
都是在工作，然后
regular operational meetings, because I've got amazing people in the company who are doing regular operational meetings, and so we're pinch hitters. CEOs are pinch hitters. We should be working on the things that nobody else can or nobody else
And
is.
so you're jumping into projects that are stuck or
That's
off track, or
That's right.
or new ideas. Or
Wherever we can move the needle. No reporting meetings. I hate reporting meetings. They don't have to report to me. And just problem meetings. And so problem meetings or idea meetings or brainstorming meetings or creation meetings or whatever it is, those are the meetings I go to. And so usually I call them. I try really hard not to have Outlook manage my life. And so we purposefully decide what kind of things that we want to do, we want to work on. And so I try to live a life of purpose, and I manage my time accordingly.
You used a phrase once, $0 billion markets. That $0 billion markets are your favorite markets.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
If you take a step back, our purpose, almost all of our purposes, should be to go and do something that has never been done before, that is insanely hard to do, that if you achieve it, could make a real contribution. I know your company does that. I try to do that. And if that's the case, it hasn't been done before, it's incredibly hard to do, and it's never been done before, that market is probably $0 billion in size, because it has never been done before. I'd rather be a market maker, market creator, than a market taker. To create something new that never existed before versus thinking about share. I don't love thinking about share. I don't like the concept of share. And the reason for that is because if you think about it in the big picture, Stripe existed out of thin air. You vaporized, you created something out of vapor. It wasn't as if there was another, something else. And so I'd like to think that we can come up with something that is $0 billion. And a $0 billion market is a good way to cause the company to think about, how to go create something for the first time.
So our mission is to grow the GDP of the internet, and I mean the GDP of the internet kind of clause in that usually gets most of the attention, but I think the most important part is just the verb grow.
他刚刚提到了一个概念叫做 $0 billion market， 其实就是什么意思？他希望做一款产品或者成为一个公司，是创造新的产品，并且来做一个新的发展趋势的这样的一个东西，并且带领一个新的发展趋势，而并非 focus 在已有的产品或者是已有的公司的市场份额去抢占市场份额这样的一个行为。最早特斯拉在做的也是这样的一件事情。真正的创业其实就是在市场上来找寻社会市场的痛点也好，包括没有人做的事情也好，把你想做的事情创造出来，并且投放到这个市场，那么你很有可能就会成为这个市场在这个行业当中的龙头企业。
Because to your point, we shouldn't be thinking about, which are the transactions that are already happening or which are the businesses that already exist. We should be thinking about which are the transactions that don't exist.
That's
and which are the businesses that don't exist.
Exactly.
The GDP of the world is around $100 trillion, but it doesn't have to be $100 trillion. It could be $200 trillion or $1,000 trillion.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And most of the value we're going to create over the next several decades are likely not limited by physical things, and so this is a pretty extraordinary time.
And so with this concept of $0 billion markets, if I'm, again, at NVIDIA, am I coming to you with some proposal for some project, and maybe there's several $1 billion of CapEx involved, or it's a many-year pursuit or something, and there are no customers for it today, there's no demand that I can demonstrate for it, and you guys are just making a gut call to say that Yet, yes, nobody's doing this today. We think they could, we think they should, and therefore we're going to pursue it.
Really close, yeah. It's kind of like that. And it's a gut call in the sense that your intuition says something as a starting thesis. But then you have to reason through it. And the reasoning of it is much, much more important to me than a spreadsheet. I hate spreadsheets because you can make spreadsheets do whatever you want. You can make any chart you want out of a spreadsheet. You just got to type in some numbers. And so I don't love spreadsheets for that reason. I love words for that reason. The words are reasoning. Tell me, how did you reason through this? What's our intuition? Why do we believe that matters? Why do we think it's hard? I like hard things because it takes a long time to do. And if it takes a long time to do, a lot of people who are, less committed probably won't do it. If it's really, really hard to do, it takes a long time to do. It takes a really resilient and a really dedicated, really committed person to go after it. And if it also takes a long time to do, you can kind of flounder around for a couple of years, nobody notice, And so I could be incompetent for several years, and everybody goes, well, who saw it,
Where did CUDA come from?
CUDA came originally from two ideas. One is called, I hate to get technical, but we pioneered this idea called accelerated computing. Accelerated computing is like a I/O device, something that you sit on PCI Express, if anybody's in the computer business, an I/O device that allows the application to interact with that I/O device in such a way as to accelerate parts of the application. And UDA was an invention in 1993, and it's really a profound invention, allows the software programmer to directly program an I/O device, write an application directly to the I/O device, because the I/O device is virtualized and it's architecturally compatible across multiple generations. We invented this idea called accelerated computing, and that was, we called it unified driver architecture for whatever reason. And then several years later, we thought we could make our GPUs more programmable to high-level programming languages, and we invented this idea called CG, C for graphics, okay, C for graphics processors. And that opened up some really exciting opportunities, and we thought, you know what, this is going to work, but CG, the programming model wasn't exactly right, and so we invented CUDA. We invented this idea called accelerated.
好，我来给大家总结一下，可能上面很多朋友听这段关于 CUDA 的解释也是比较模糊。其实关于 CUDA， 你只需要知道两件事情。第一，就是 CUDA 是英伟达开发的一种并行的计算平台和编程的模型，它可以使计算加速，可以让开发者直接调用这个 GPU 的算力。它的核心作用不仅能让 GPU 进行图像处理，那么更加能够使 GPU 高速并且加速的处理各种复杂的任务，不管是从 AI 模型的训练到科学的模拟等，都可以加速完成。所以说他说，总之 CUDA 是创造了一种所谓的加速计算的概念。
This is one of your $0 billion markets you went after.
Yeah.
And it was a disaster.
Yeah, because it was a $0 billion we went after, but it cost so much to go after that $0 billion market, it actually crushed the $1 billion market we were enjoying. And the reason for that is because CUDA added a ton of cost into our chips, but there were no applications. And there are no applications, customers don't value the product, and they won't pay you a premium for it. And if people aren't willing to pay you for it, but your costs went up, then your gross margins get crushed. And our market cap was low, and then went down to really low. It was like, I think our market cap went down to like $1 billion or something like that. I wish I bought it, but anyways.
Okay, and so therefore you immediately canceled CUDA and went back to the old strategy.
No, I believed in CUDA because you reasoned about it. Look, we really believed that accelerated computing was going to be able to solve problems that normal computers couldn't. And if we wanted to extend the architecture to be much more general purpose, we had to make that sacrifice. And so I deeply believed in the mission of our company. I deeply believed in its opportunities. I deeply believed that people were wrong. They just didn't appreciate what we built. I deeply believed it.
And so weren't analysts and the board and employees, like you've torpedo this existing revenue stream. You've this hyped thing that you're selling a lofty dream around that nobody seems to actually want. The business is really suffering. So talk us through that. You believed.
You just go something like this. Oh gosh, they're so dumb. Something like that. You denial. No, I'm just kidding. No, you go back to what you believe. And if you believe something,
did the board put pressure on you during this?
I start every conversation with what I deeply believed because they saw me deeply believe it, and I reasoned about it. It wasn't like it was a spreadsheet, and therefore you got to believe the spreadsheet. They had to believe the reasoning, the words.
How long did it take it to start working?
Probably 10 years. Yeah, it wasn't that long. Yeah, 10 years. It comes and goes. 10 years.
Less than a third of your tenure.
Yeah, it comes and goes. I barely remembered it. The suffering. I barely remembered it.
Could NVIDIA be as successful in AI without CUDA?
No, impossible.
刚刚解释了 CUDA 主要的作用以及它的底层的逻辑。那么接下来黄仁勋就会讲 CUDA 对于 NVIDIA 今天成为人类历史上第一个破4万亿美金市值的公司的决定性的战略性的一个作用是什么？为什么 CUDA 系统对于 NVIDIA 如今的发展如此的重要？
It is potentially one of the most important inventions in modern computing. We invented this idea called accelerated computing, and the idea is so simple but deeply profound. It says the vast majority, a small percentage of the code of programs consumes 99.999% of the runtime. And this is true for a lot of very important applications. And that small little kernel, or several kernels, can be accelerated. And it's not all just parallel processing, it's not as simple as that. But the idea is that we can take that kernel, that piece of software, that part of the software, and accelerate the living daylights out of it. And today, when Moore's law has run its course and CPU scaling is basically stopped, and if we don't accelerate every software, you're going to see extraordinary computation inflation. Because the amount of computation the world does is doubling every year still, and yet if CPUs and general purpose computers are not increasing in performance because it's stopped, then what's your alternative? Or your cost of computing is going to keep going up exponentially. And so the time has come for us to do that. And
so everyone here runs a business, and
accelerate everything.
And you heard it here first. And probably everyone has some version of CUDA for a thing that they think really makes sense for the sector or makes sense for their technology or what have you, but where the market doesn't see it yet. Do you think it's possible to extract any kind of generalizable principles around when you should really doggedly trust that vision and when perhaps it's worth reconsidering in a fashion that we could extrapolate from in the case of CUDA and other CUDAs that have existed over the course of NVIDIA's history?
Yeah, the question is determination and commitment versus stubbornness. And that line is fuzzy. Look, I gut checked against my core beliefs every day. I still do. And you gut check against it the first principles by which you reasoned about your strategies. The first principles by which you reason about your strategies, those first principles are easy to remember. And it's not a long list. And now the question is, are those principles, did they change in some fundamental way? Are external conditions such that they no longer matter as much as before? Did somebody else solve the problem and therefore that problem has now disappeared? Is it there will never be any need? You gut check it, right, constantly. And to the extent that's number one, gut check. You have to, first of all, you really have to be careful to distill down to first principles instead of, I want something. That's stubbornness. You can't reason about it, I just want it. We're not 5-year-olds, right? And so you got to reason about it, number one. Number two, you have to be clever. The fact of the matter is there are a lot of new companies being created here. It's amazing how many great companies are in the audience and young companies in the audience. You have to be clever. And so we found ways to monetize, even in a small way, CUDA. And so we found, we looked everywhere for applications. We found an application with CT reconstruction. We found an application with seismic processing. We found another application with molecular dynamics, and so we're constantly looking for applications. They didn't make it a home run, but it sustained us just enough, and bought us time for it to really happen.
Okay, so let's talk about AI. I need just to kind of do some math to ground things here. Let's just say that the total sort of compute capacity of all GPUs in the world today is X. What multiple of X will we be at in 5 years?
First of all, you know that I'm going to regret saying this. And this is I'm a public company, you crazy person. See, this is how nice is it to be private?
Safe to say considerably more?
Well, let's reason about it, shall we? Okay, so let's reason about it. Let's reason our way through, okay? So first of all, it goes like this. The world has installed about $1 trillion worth of data centers. Those $1 trillion worth of data centers use as general purpose computing. General purpose computing is run its course. We cannot continue to process that way. And so the world is going to accelerate everything. Data processing, you name it, okay? And so we're going to accelerate everything. When we accelerate everything, every single data center, every single computer will be an accelerated server. Well, there's about $1 trillion worth of computers if we don't grow at all over the next, call it 4 years that we have to go replace. 4 years, 6 years, pick your number of years. But if the computer industry continues to grow at some 20% or so, we'll probably have to replace over the course of next, pick your number of years, about $2 trillion worth of computers with accelerated computing. So just make that GPUs, okay? That's number one. And this is the second part. This is the reason why all of you, Stripe, you're onto something just absolutely monumental. This idea called, and you've heard me say, an industrial revolution. Let me tell you why. We are producing something for the very first time that has never been produced before. And we're producing it in extremely high volume. And the production of this thing requires a new instrument that never existed before. It's a GPU. And the thing that we're producing for the very first time, for the mathematicians and all the computer scientists in the room, for all of you, you know that we're producing tokens. We're producing floating point numbers at high volume for the first time in history, and the floating point numbers have value. The reason why they have value is because it's intelligence. It's artificial intelligence. You can take these floating point numbers, you reformulate it in such a way that it turns into English, French, proteins, chemicals, graphics, images, videos, robotic articulation, steering wheel articulation. We're producing tokens at extraordinary scale. Now, we've discovered a way, through all of the work that we do with artificial intelligence, to produce tokens of almost any kind. So now, the world is going to produce an enormous amount of tokens. Now, these tokens are going to be produced in new types of data centers. We call them AI factories. Back in the last industrial revolution, water comes into a machine, you light the water on fire, right? Turn it into steam, and then it turns into electrons. Atoms come in, electrons go out. In this new industrial revolution, electrons come in and floating point numbers come out. And just like the last industrial revolution, nobody understood why these electricity is so valuable and is now sold, right, marketed kilowatt hours, per dollar. And so now we have, million tokens per dollar. And so that same logic is as incomprehensible to a lot of people as the last industrial revolution, but it's going to be completely normal in the next 10 years. Well, these tokens are going to create new products, new services, enhance productivity on a whole slew of industries, $100 trillion worth of industries on top of us. And so this industry is going to be gigantic. And in order to monetize that, transact that, you're going to need Stripe. And so I gotta tell you, this is one of my favorite companies.
这段采访就是从黄仁勋从台湾移民美国的经历到他后来的 job experience， 并且当了一段时间的洗碗工。他说他骨子里就有一种品质，不管这件事情能不能给他带来幸福感，他都试图去把这件事做到最好。这可能是东亚教育下的孩子也好，或者你说产物也好的一种特点。接下来他也谈到了英伟达以及 CUDA 以及未来世界对于 GPU 算力的需求。我们可以从他最后一段的对话当中看出，未来对于加速计算的需求可能会到各个行业， 形成一个无孔不入的形态。未来这个行业的发展的潜力也将会是巨大的。其实整段视频我看下来，第一，我们必须要敬佩黄仁勋从一个台湾的移民家庭到美国，一直到现在在英伟达执掌了30年的 CEO 的职位，一直把英伟达带领到了世界第一市值公司宝座的这样的地位。这件故事固然很感人，但是我们可以看到黄仁勋对于GPU 的热爱，对于 AI 这个行业的热爱，也是更值得我们敬佩和学习的。他也提到了创业者要有自己的想法和思维，要创造一个属于一个行业新的一个产品，甚至是一个新的行业，然后再把你的产品放到一个可以实现的应用场景里来进行落地，这样才可能做出一家伟大的公司。好的，那么这一期关于 Stripe CEO Patrick 和英伟达 CEO Jason Huang 的一个采访，我们就解读到这里。我相信大家可以从这段采访里，不管是从人生层面，还是从创业层面，还是从运营公司，以及对未来世界的发展趋势，都将会有一个全新的一个认知。如果你喜欢今天的视频解读，别忘了帮我点赞、点关注，那么也可以分享给你的朋友。那么分享和点赞就是我持续做视频的动力。希望大家看到本期视频之后，会有一个认知上，包括人生哲学上的有一个 upgrade。感谢收看本期的查理聊财经，我们下期见。